You work hard to stay healthy and want the freedom to make the best decisions for yourself and your family. So why does healthcare still feel expensive and frustrating? Crowd Health is a different approach, built for entrepreneurs, families, and independent-minded people who want a simpler way to pay for healthcare. More than 28,000 members have already joined, and over 40,000 medical bills have already been funded. No restrictive networks, no corporate middlemen, just real people helping each other. Learn more at joincrowdhealth.com. That's joincrowdhealth.com.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warmer for the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Jon Jansen, who does such great work over at Fox Sports Philadelphia. The Gambler have to take a look at what the Phillies have done thus far this season. It's been up and down, but now they're back up. They're back above 500, so we'll talk about that, the National League landscape as a whole, and maybe a few teams that he's feeling bullish/bearish on now that we have reached that Memorial Day moniker where a lot of people, they feel like what we've seen this far this season, now it is for real. In the final segment, I'm going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind there's the maybe does not matter. So as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Well, I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today. We had ourselves a fun day of baseball on Monday. Let's take a look back at it. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
Make it now 9 straight losses for the Chicago Cubs. They fall to the Pittsburgh Pirates. This by a count of 2-1. For the Cubs, Ben Brown was very solid in this game. 1 run allowed over the course of 6 innings. Trent Thornton gives up a run in an inning. That would be a solo home run to Henry Davis, former number 1 overall pick. 4th home run of the campaign. Jacob Webb, a scoreless inning from there. But for the Cubs, nothing doing on offense. Kerman Mulzinski gives up a solo home run to Michael Busch. 6th home run in the campaign over the course of 5 innings. That's the lone form of scoring that the Cubs will get as Wilber Dotel, 3 shutout innings, and then Gregory Soto, a shutout 9th inning to be able to get the job done there. Things got all sorts of crazy in the Rays versus Orioles game. This game was 2-2 going into extra innings, and then the Orioles win by kind of 9-7 as it goes 13 innings. Sugar Shea McClanahan, 5 1/3 innings scoreless. Hunter Biggie from there, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned, given up in his 2/3 of an inning. Casey Lugumina, he comes in for 2 shutout innings. Brian Baker, he was able to give you a scoreless inning, and then Ian Seymour, 2 unearned runs given up in the extra innings in 2 innings. Jesse Schultz, he comes in, gives up 5 runs, 3 of which were earned, including the walk-off home run to Colton Cowser. For Cowser, home run number 3 of the campaign for him, as for the Orioles, 6 of 18 with men in scoring position. The Rays, they were 4 of 14 as Kyle Bradish, he had a nice start as well. 1 run allowed over the course of 6 innings, taken deep by Jonathan Aranda, his 9th home run of the season, and then in the 10th inning, thought that this might be the difference maker, but home run number 1 of the season for the young outfielder and Victor Mesa Jr. as he was able to crank that one off of Tyler Wells, and he was trying to pitch Wells, 3 runs, 1 of which was earned in the extra innings. Grant Wolfram, Yennier Cano, don't you know, they combined for a shutout inning. He had Anthony Nunez give up a run in an inning. Uncle Rico Garcia, 2 shutout innings, and then Diedrich Hens, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned, but the Orioles, they do find a way to be able to get the job done there. Also finding a way to get the job done, the New York Yankees, 4-3. They take down the Kansas City Royals thanks to a pair in the 9th inning. Cody Bellinger would go deep off of Michael Wacha, 7th home run season, but for Wacha, good start. 2 runs allowed over the course of 7 innings. Daniel Lynch a shutout inning, and the Lucas Ursic on for the save in the 9th, gives up 2 runs in that 9th, and Will Warren, he continues to be solid away from home. 2 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings as he was taken deep by Salvador Perez. 9th home run season, Bobby Witt Jr., he gets his 8th. That comes off Jake Bird, who gives the Bird with 2/3 of an inning. He gives up a run along the way. Brent Hendrick, he was able to give you a power outside the bullpen. Scoreless, same goes for Tim Hill. And the David Bednar, he does not poop the Bednar, a scoreless 9th inning. So the Yankees now 32-22. The Arizona Diamondbacks, they get a nice 6-2 win over the San Francisco Giants as Landon Roop, he gives up 4 runs, 2 of which were earned over the course of 5 innings. A Willie Adames throwing here costed him 9 errors for Adames, and he's not doing a lot at the field, so I don't know what he's necessarily providing in this team. And Gabriel Moreno was able to get a home run in this one, 3rd of the campaign. Yoel Piguero from there gives up 2 runs in a 1/3 of an inning. Sam Antiges, pair of outside the bullpen scores. JT Brubaker, 3 shutout innings, and Merrill Kelly, he's starting to really find it for the Diamondbacks. 2 runs allowed in 7 innings. Jonathan Loaizaga, Braden Garcia, both able to give you a scoreless inning. The Mets just continue to be awful. They're back to 10 games below 500, 7-2. The Reds are able to get the job done here. Nick Lodolo, best start of the season. Solo home run allowed over the course of 6 innings. Marcus Semien, 4th home run season. Brock and Rolberg, he gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning. TJ Antone, he got knocked out of the bullpen squirrels. Sam Mole, Graham Ashcraft, they both give you a scoreless inning. And then Noah McLean, 7 runs allowed in 3 1/3 innings, including a pair of bombs. For Tyler Stevenson, 4th home run of the campaign. JJ Bleday, his 7th home run of the season. From there, you had Tobias Myers give you 4 outs out of the bullpen squirrels. Austin Warren, 5 outs out of the bullpen squirrels. And Jonathan Pintero, he was able to come in 2 2/3 innings scoreless, but by then the damage had very much been done. Being able to do some damage were the Brewers, 5-1. They take down the St. Louis Cardinals. The Miz, Jacob Mizorowski, first to 100 strikeouts this year. 12 punch-outs, 1 run allowed in 7 innings. He had over 50 pitches of 100+ miles an hour in this game. Just absolutely insane. Aaron Ashby from there, he gives you 2 shutout innings. Matthew Libator, he gives up 3 runs over the course of 5 innings. He had 10 strikeouts of his own, but was taken deep by Christian Yelich, 4th home run season. And then in the MLB debut of young Bryson Motts, he gives up 2 runs over the course of 3 innings. So Brewers now 31-20 and in control of the National League Central right now. And the Chicago White Sox, they're doing a good job out there in the American League Central. Back above 500, 3-1. They take down the Minnesota Twins as Zebby Matthews gives up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings. Pair of bombs allowed. Montaka Murakami, 18th home run of the campaign. Drew Romo was able to give you his 5th home run of the season. Brooks Lee had a home run of his own for the Twins, his 6th. That comes off of Anthony Kane in the first inning. After that, he was more than okay. Gives up 1 run over the course of 6 innings. Grant Taylor, Brian Hudson, Sir Anthony Dominguez, all in a scoreless inning. Simeon Woods Richardson, he was able to give you 2 shutout innings, but for the White Sox, they do find a way to be able to get that one to the window, and also being able to get to the window, the Washington Nationals, they just absolutely pulverize the Cleveland Guardians in this one as Tanner Bybee allows 7 runs over the course of 3 innings. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 home runs. Being able to go deep, Luis Garcia's 4th home run this campaign. You had Curtis Meade go deep, both off of Tanner Bybee and then off of Matthew Festa as well. 6th and 7th home runs of the season. CJ Abrams, 12th home run of the season. You had Jacob Young get his 7th home run season, and then James Goodwood for his 14th home run season. For Festa, he gives up 1 run over the course of 2 innings, and then Logan Allen, he had a polish shot 4 innings. He gave up a pair of unearned runs along the way. PJ Poole in the opener gives up just 1 run over the course of 6 innings, and then Zach Littell, he was able to give up 1 run along the way. So 10-2, the Nationals find a way to be able to get the job done there. Most definitely being able to get the job done, the Houston Astros, they have a combined no-hitter over the Texas Rangers, winning this game by a count of 9-0. For Tatsuya Amai, it's been a rough transition to the big league level, but he put it all together on this day. 6 shutout innings out of him. He did walk 4, but still much better than we had seen before. Steven Okert, a shutout inning out of him, and then Elimber Santa. Yes, Elimber Santa. Santa delivers 2 no-hit innings to be able to complete this one. Absolutely wild in his MLB debut for Mr. Santa, and Kumar Rocker, well, he got rocked. He gave up 4 runs over the course of 5 innings, but not as badly as Peyton Gray, who then would give up 5 runs, 3 of which were earned over the course of 2 innings. Pair of home runs in this game for the Astros. Christian Walker, 15th of the campaign. Yordan Alvarez, 16th home run of the season, and then Chris Martin, and then you had the position players, Sam Haggerty, both be able to give you a scoreless inning. Lots of scoreless innings performed by the Seattle Mariners as they take it to the Athletics, this by a count of 9-2. As for Seattle, Luis Castillo looked much better in this game. He was able to go 4 shutout innings. Bryce Miller from their piggybacks giving up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings. Did allow a home run to Shea Langoliers. Shea bangs his 13th home run of the season, and Aaron Zavalli just completely torched in this game. 7 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings. Gives up 3 home runs. J.P. Crawford, 7th home run of the season. Luke Raley is 11th. Tom Canzone is 5th. And then Randy Rosarena off of Jack Perkins, his 6th home run of the campaign. Perkins allows 2 runs in 4 2/3 innings. Joe Kuhnel is able to give you an out of the bullpen scoreless, but that brings the Athletics back to 500. And for the LA Dodgers, they get the job done against the Colorado Rockies, this by a count of 5-3. Dodgers were down 3-1 going into the 7th inning. They explode from there as Tanner Gordon, actually a really good start, 1 run allowed over the course of 5 innings, but Juan Mejia gives up 2 runs in an inning. Brendan Bernardino, 2 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning. Jaden Hill out of the bullpen scoreless, and then you were able to get a shutout inning out of Wellington Herrera in his MLB debut. And Emmett Sheehan has been much better at home rather than away from home. 2 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings. Kyle Hurt and Will Vest both give you a scoreless inning. Alex Vesia, Blake Trinan, they combined for a scoreless 9th inning to be able to get that one in. And the Marlins, they were able to get this one in. 8-2, they were able to take down the Blue Jays as Jansen Junkie did not live up to his name. 1 run allowed over the course of 5 innings. Lake Bakar gives up a run in 1 1/3 innings, taken deep by Ernie Clement. 4th home run of the campaign. And Trey Savage, regression hits him here. Still has yet to give up a home run, but but 5 runs allowed in 6 2/3 innings. Mason Flaherty from there and out of the bullpen scoreless, but Tyler Rogers gives up 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning. He had a scoreless inning in the 9th inning out of Tanner Andrews. Lots of guys made their MLB debut on Memorial Day. Adam Echo was able to give you an out of the bullpen scoreless inning for the Fish. Kate Gibson, a scoreless inning, and John King was the king of giving you a scoreless inning as well, and Andrew Nardi, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. So Marlins, they are now 3 games below 500, and team that has been able to get it going recently, the Philadelphia Phillies. And we're going to talk a little bit more about them with Jon Jansen on the flip side. 3-0. They take down the San Diego Padres. Says for the Phillies, they get 3 runs on 3 hits. They left 2 men on base. They were very efficient. Griffin Canning, he gives up 3 runs in 6 2/3 innings. Kyle Schwarber, a Schwarbomb, his 21st home run of the campaign. Brandon Marsh, his 5th. From there, Jeremiah Strong and out of the bullpen scoreless. Yuki Matsui, 2 shutout innings. And Jesus Luzardo had the bases loaded with no outs in the first inning. Manages to get out of that as the Padres go 0 of 10 with men in scoring position. 6 shot out of him. Orion Kirkering, Brad Keller, and Johan Duran. They're all able to supply a scoreless inning. And if you're taking a look at trend-wise, what we're getting in baseball right now, the unders now have a lead on overs. 393 unders, 390 overs. And if math serves me correct, we have had 22 pushes along the way as well. Favorites on the money line hitting at 55.3%. 433 and 350 on the money line. We have seen 97 of those favorites fail to cover the run line, and that's been a theme over the last 7 days. Last 7 days, favorites have struggled, 45 and 43 on the money line, and 15 of those favorites unable to cover the run line. Meanwhile, the under rate rampant. 54 unders, 37 overs, and 2 pushes in the last 7 days. That's 59.3% to the under. That's what we're seeing in baseball right now. That's where we're all getting trend-wise. Coming up next, how about if we do chat it up with our good friend Jon Jansen of Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler, right here on the Baseball Betting Show. Myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got our good friend Jon Jansen aboard. He does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, looking at this great game that we all know and love of baseball, and doing a great job covering everything out there in the area of Philadelphia. He does a great job on the college football front. I know that over at Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler, they do a great job with the Villanova Wildcats. John also does a great job with the 76ers, and he's got video game and movie reviews to boot. So he gives you a little bit of good, clean family fun there. You're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at the letter J. His last name Jansen, 34 altogether. And John, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think the last time we talked, Phillies in a bit of turmoil, seem to have turned it around, but obviously some still concerns I have, but all plenty of things to discuss.
Yep, certainly there are still some things that are not amazing with the Phillies, but they're a whole heck of a lot better than they were this time about a month or so ago. I think we can both agree there. And coming off a 3-0 win over the Padres on Monday, and just how do you take a look at this team? Because I don't think I'm going out here on a limb to say that probably a lot of the concerns are bats not named Kyle Schwarber or Bryce Harper.
Yeah, and it's all the lineup. And what they've really been getting to is starting rotation. That was a little bit one of my concerns when we talked last time, but it seems to stabilize a bit. They are being led by Zach Wheeler and Christopher Sanchez, and you look at the numbers that they've had the month of May, they've been nearly flawless in May. It's numbers that rival kind of what Roy Halladay and Cliff Lee were doing in the 2011 year. I mean, it is pretty outstanding, the type of pitching they're getting at the top, especially with their starting rotation. And then obviously we're getting really great production out of Schwarber and Harper. But the one thing you're seeing a lot of, their right-handed bats are just awful right now. And part of that's Alec Boehm, part of that's Adolis Garcia, who they've been relying a lot on, the offseason signing from the Texas Rangers. So they've been relying on him. But the big one really is at the top of the lineup. It's Trey Turner is not giving them any production either, at least not good enough. When you look around again at the rest of the right-handed bats that are in that lineup, Trey Turner needs to be doing more, and is just not doing enough. So we talked about that they're being led by their top-end talent, and that was the case for this big run that they've been on. But the concern is now, like, the one top-end guy that isn't doing his part is Trey Turner, and it seems like they're going to really need him because they just don't have any right-handed bats to combat left-handed pitching.
Yep, that has been a little bit of a concern. They were able to get by 3-0 on Monday, but as we know, Kyle Schwarber had to get his 21st home run of the season to be able to do so. And with this Phillies team in general, it has been interesting to take a look at the bullpen as well, because Jon Jansen did have a game where he gave up a run. I think it was like 5, maybe 4 days ago, but overall he's been solid. I would have to think that it's a little bit of a concern when you get outside of he, and I would throw in there Orion Kerkering as being a pretty trustworthy guy as well.
Yeah, that's one thing that's been a little bit up and down, but the good thing is, like, I still trust the talent there. Like, yes, there's been, a game or two from Duran that you're just like, it looks a little bit shaky, but I think for the most part, he's really been good. Alvarado's got amazing stuff, and he's a little bit up and down at times, but again, I still trust the talent.
Allow me to throw this in here as well. Would you say that Alvarado has not been the same since the drug suspension?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Definitely not been the same. I think that's maybe expected when you go through something like that and you're off for a significant amount of time. I know he came back, I think, towards the end of last year and got the pitch a little bit, but they didn't get the pitch in the postseason. It's a lot of time off, and it's a lot of not pitching. So I would say you're absolutely right in that. And he just hasn't looked the same. I know they've had this before where he's gone through stretches of just not good play, but he's bounced back from that usually really well. But yeah, he's such a streaky pitcher, and I think you're kind of seeing a little bit of that with him right now. Not been the same, but you're right as well to point out. And Kerkering, look, he had that bad play that pretty much ended their season last year. And with a guy like that, you're just not sure how he's going to bounce back from it. I think he's slowly getting there. And it's funny, you see some plays too where he had a dribbler kind of rolled back towards him and he made a play that he didn't make with the Dodgers at the end of the postseason last year. So decent things. I think bullpen I'm not too worried about. I think pitching overall I'm not worried about. It's the lineup. And I think when the lineup goes cold, every time we also kind of put a microscope on the bullpen because it feels like one run they give up is the end of the world. It shouldn't be the case like that, but it is, and it's only because the lineup is just not performing too well at the moment. And again, it just goes back on they just have no good right-handed bats.
Yep, it certainly has been a big issue for them, and it's going to be interesting to see moving forward, but they have gotten back to 500 with that win on Monday. And just how do you look at their outlook in the National League? Because we keep on saying it on this podcast every single time you join me. Every team in the National League Central is above 500. I feel like that's the biggest thing that's working against them, along with the Atlanta Braves continuing to be the Atlanta Braves. But overall, they've been able to work their way up. But I think that it's just so interesting to look at the outlook of the wild card race, because it feels like that's what they're going to need to settle for, because I just don't frankly think any team is catching the Braves out there in the East. And Phillies probably have the best chance of any of those other teams, even though the Washington Nationals have risen up with their offense.
Yes, I think with the Braves, they are not catchable at this point. And I don't think they will be at all for them for the National League East. Look, the Braves have also dealt with a little bit of injuries. It's not like they're playing amazing baseball at the moment. They're playing good, but not amazing. And if I think the Phillies were, let's say, full strength, if they had a little bit more firepower in their lineup, I would say the pitching is definitely there. They could make a run. That is good enough to make some kind of a run. It's not even, we're getting towards the end of May. We're getting towards the beginning of June. But I would say, a few, like 9 games back, it seems like a lot, but when your pitching's that good, you can rack up a lot of wins. It's just that the firepower, I don't know, is there. So I just don't think the Phillies are capable through a long stretch of like 3 months to really catch up with the Braves. I think with the Phillies, it's find a way to get into the wild card. And the good thing that's happening right now is you're right. Every team in the National League Central is above 500, but I think they've proven like they're as good as most of those teams. I know the Reds ended up playing them pretty well, but they ended up beating Pittsburgh in a series. So I just think like they're in that conversation with those teams in the Central that they're going to be fighting in that wild card spot for. Maybe even Arizona, who's also getting in there. I think the Phillies have enough to get and sneak into a wild card spot. And when you're a team like the Phillies, it's all you kind of want to do because you just want to make sure you can get that pitching in a position that you can win a postseason series. I'm thinking that's where the Phillies are right now, but it is going to be incredibly close. And what they're going to have to do, and they've really struck out on this the past few years, and it's why I don't think they've gotten over the hump and into the World Series, because they have missed on a bat in the trade deadline. They have tried, they have gotten bats, but I don't think good enough ones. So that's the biggest thing is, can they finally nail one of these trade deadline bat acquisitions, and especially this one, a right-handed bat, that's the one that's going to get them potentially comfortably into a wild card. If they don't get that, they're going to be fighting for their lives to do it, and it's going to be really tough. But I think they eventually do, and it would be great because that's all you really need to do is get Wheeler and Sanchez into the postseason, and they can carry you through some postseason series.
Yep, the lone guy they really picked up at the trade deadline over the last few years was Brandon Marsh. He's obviously been a mainstay and currently one of the few guys that's moving the line for the team. So he's been solid, but past that, very much has been a bit of a roll of the dice with regards to those bats. As we do have our good friend Jon Jansen joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And how about if we do mention that team that is right now, I believe, tied with the Phillies? Depending upon when this comes out, they might be half a game up or down from the Phillies, and that's Washington Nationals, because they're the lone other team right now they look at in the National League East that might be able to legitimately make the postseason. I just don't see it with the Marlins, even though they do seem like they're on the up and up. They've got some young talent. I just don't think that this is quite their year, and the Mets continue to be a disaster. Like, there was a time where the Phillies and the Mets were the biggest laughingstock in baseball. The Phillies addressed things to be able to get back to respectability, and the Mets just have not. And it's just a lost season for them, in my opinion. But how do you take a look at a Nationals team that the pitching is still pretty much an abomination, but these guys just keep producing runs after runs after runs, and it has been wild to look at their season.
Yeah, it has been. I really believe in that lineup. I know that's easy to say, as they, I think, pretty much still have the most runs scored in Major League Baseball this season. And that's wild to say because they also still have a negative run differential while having the most scored runs. I think the pitching's been okay, especially at the top of the starting rotation. It's nothing great. Again, we talk about teams most of the time that are going to have postseason success, and it's top of the line starting pitching, and they don't have that. But I think they have some good starting pitching pieces. I just think we've been able to see at least teams work through that in the regular season. As long as your lineup's really good, you can work through some pitching problems because not every start is going to be really bad. Not every time you have a relief pitcher come in that he's going to be awful. They can get through an inning. I think it's a team, I don't know if they can catch the Braves. They are very much in play for a wild card spot. And that's a team that could really steal one, especially from the Phillies if their lineup can't get it together. So yes, pitching is a problem and it holds them back from so much, but their lineup's so good. They are such a threat for a wild card spot. I think that's where it gets really tough is they just become such a contender to do that. Again, everything else holds them back, but man, that lineup holds up with just about anyone. That'll play in the regular season. That'll win you a lot of games, and it will string together some games in the regular season for you.
Yep, absolutely. And I do think that it's going to be interesting to see what we get moving forward out of that lineup because, outside of James Wood, along C.J. Abrams, you don't necessarily have that star, but it feels like some of these guys like Darren Lyle and company have been able to come along for the ride, and that's going to be big for them moving forward, as it just feels like it's an interesting National League in general because with the East, I feel like that's probably one race in which it's going to be hard for it to really become too much of a race. It just feels like the Braves are going to run and hide, but certainly the Central is going to be hot and heavy. With the West, even though I think that the Dodgers are going to be able to get it done, the team that the Phillies are playing right now, the Padres, are so intriguing because they've got so much upside with their pitching, and we alluded to it with the Phillies, but for the lineup of the Padres, it's really lacking, and unlike what the Phillies have in terms of two superstars, and then it's everyone else, for the Padres, it feels like it's everyone else because who's supposed to be their two superstars, Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr., have been terrible this year.
Yeah, and it's just kind of looking at every team that way. Right now, I think the Cubs are going through a really dry spell, and it's just so you can see how important their lineup is to them because once they go a little bit cold, they are looking terrible at the moment. And same thing with the Padres. Yes, they are 9 games above 500, and everything's good, but still, they've looked okay, and a lot of it is because they're not getting it from their top-of-the-line players. The way the Phillies have gotten and the way they were able to go on such a big run lately. So as much as the National League has some really good teams, and I think it's a really crowded wild card standings. We've talked about that a lot. Man, these are some significantly flawed teams. And I just think it's going to make for such an interesting race. I think we've seen it's fluctuated a lot. It's gone up and down. Some teams that we thought we could really trust or really like the Cubs, they end up losing 9 straight. And you're like, man, yes, they're going to have some problems there if their lineup doesn't hit the way that it needs to. But the one consistent thing is the Dodgers can deal with any adversity and just rack together games and wins. They're the top of the National League East, and even the Braves I don't think can compete with that, especially with some of the injuries that they've been dealing with. But yeah, it's just the National League, there's so many things to like, and there's so many things to like specifically with some of these teams. But man, there are some heavy flaws there too. And it's just going to make for, I think, a pretty interesting wild card race, especially as we get into June and the summer months. It's going to be really fun to watch.
Absolutely. And I do want to ask you this before we get out of here and take a look at what we've got on the card for Tuesday. Is there one or two teams that you look at right now and you just feel upside with them? They could be above 500 right now. They could be below 500, National League, American League. Is there just a team right now that you feel like they're starting to play some good baseball and you want to see if they can just continue to heat up?
It looks like we're finally getting a team a little bit, and I was impressed with them. It's not an overly great lineup, but they did play in Philadelphia, and they did play really well. I was impressed with the Guardians. We know that they've been kind of solid pitching-wise, and they pitched really well against the Phillies. But, man, they have some young guys who can do some good things. You know, DeLauder, Bazana, like all of these guys, and obviously Jose Ramirez is really good. They're getting not the best production, but it's still like they get some pop out of Rhys Hoskins. It's not a lineup that you fear, and it's always the one thing with the Guardians that they just haven't had. It's not a lot of pop, but it's just a team that always finds a way to get it done. And in an American League like this, where just there aren't many good teams, you know, a team like that, as long as they can stay steady, that's a team that could absolutely make some noise. So, yeah, I just think there's some upside there with the Guardians compared to what the rest of the American League is, which is just so streaky. They at least have been able to find some consistency. They've been really good on the road, 17-13. They've won 8 out of their last 10. We know the pitching can be really good, and the lineup has just kind of found its way a little bit. It's a team that I find to have some upside just because of the consistency. And that's something that I just don't know if I can find with the rest of the American League, which seems so streaky at this point.
Yep, I think that that's very well said by you. I do think that there's quite a bit of upside with the Guardians. Obviously, they are going to need to be a little bit more consistent. And they're another team that hasn't necessarily gotten it from Jose Ramirez, Steven Kwan, the guys who you expect. It's been the ancillary guys thus far this season. So they get their main guys going. Look out below. I'm right there with you. And John, I know that you're doing such a great job looking at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. You're doing a great job covering everything out there in the wonderful city of Philadelphia. So let the good people at home know what's on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, you can follow me at JJansen34, and that's where you'll find all my stuff, especially at The Gambler, you know, Parks every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Also, Green Legion Radio, noon to 2 on Saturdays. Weekend programming, Sunday lineup, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. A bunch of great weekend stuff to get you through some really fun baseball summer weekends coming up. So, yeah, you can find it all just at JJansen34 and search up Fox Sports The Gambler on the iHeartRadio app.
Yep, and John is doing such an incredible job looking at this great game of baseball and so much more. And every single time he joins me, lends such great insight. So big thanks to John for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis out of the game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It's always great to be joined by Jon Jansen, who does such great work over at Fox Sports Philadelphia, The Gambler. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights. He did so once again today. So, big thanks to John for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81. We're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first in time order, then the American League games in time order, and the Interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So let's get things started with 951, 952 on the card. The Cubs are going to be on the road against the Pirates as Braxton Ashcraft hopes not be a load of Ashcraft for the Pirates, and Jordan Wicks is on the bump for the Cubs. Total on this game is anywhere between 8 to 8.5. On the 8, over and under both at -110. On the 8.5, under is -120. Over is even. Pirates Pirates minus 126 to minus 131 favorites, plus 108 to plus 110 is that number on the Cubs, and I'm going to be willing to lay with the Pirates. I did set them at a minus 139. Recognize that things have been a little bit shaky for them, but yeah, you got the Cubs who have now lost 9 straight games, and now they go up against a guy in Braxton Ashcraft who's been good this year. 289 ERA, 316 fielding independent, 9.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, 0.9 home runs per 9, and for Jordan Wicks, this is going to be his first start of the season for Wicks. I mean, he has shown flashes of greatness with the Cubs. He's also shown flashes of being just completely erratic and out of control. He's got a career 3 walks per 9 innings. Now, last season, in his very small sample size of 14 and a third innings, he only gave up 0.6 walks per 9 innings, but he also had an ERA of a 6.28. He's come out of the bullpen. He's been a little bit of a starter, and you take a look at the minor league numbers for Wicks this season because he has yet to appear at the big league level. 4.44 ERA over the course of 7 starts, 1.7 home runs, 4.1 walks per 9 innings. Not really good, and for the Cubs, they've been dealing with a lot of injuries to the bullpen, and they're actually getting back a lot of their guys. Like, you now have back Caleb Theobar, Daniel Palencia has been solid. I like what I've seen out of Jacob Webb with a sub-350 ERA, but I just don't know what you're going to be able to get out of Wicks, and this has been a Pirates team that has been really good with their offense at home. When they are away from home, the Pirates are averaging more than a full run per game less than they do at home, as right now they're a top 5 unit in terms of home run creation with about 5.4 runs per game. Oneil Cruz, Brandon Lau have been able to lead the way with a double-figure amount of homers, and in the case of Cruz, hitting more like a 250, 265 for Lau. He's a little bit more consistent in terms of moving the line and getting on base, but how about Nick Gonzalez hitting a 300? Brian Reynolds, Spencer Horowitz, these are guys give you over a 375 on base, so that's been big along Connor Griffin, who hasn't really hit for power, but he's hitting at 260. He's come along for the ride. They've done this all with Marcell Ozuna not necessarily being great, and a bullpen that has been a little bit shaky to say the least. You last year had Dennis Santana supplying a sub-3 ERA that is north of a 4 right now. You've had Gregory Soto actually be really good this year. I don't know how long that lasts, but Brandon Bedoy, the gentleman from, I believe it's Brisbane, Australia, Yohan Ramirez, Mason Montgomery, all these guys are 360 ERA or better, and for the Cubs, it just feels like this offense is toilet bowled over the last few games. Like, you got a lot of guys that do a solid job in terms of getting on base, but other than Ian Happ, you really haven't had that main home run hitter thus far this season. As Happ, he's been able to give you 10 home runs this season. Michael Busch is up to 6 home runs with the home run yesterday, but he's been erratic and all over the place. Pete Armstrong hitting below 225, not a lot of power. That's been an issue. Moises Ballesteros has come back to earth. Nico Horner is out hitting just a 255, so we've really seen a lot of these guys go downward. Dansby Swanson still hitting below the Bedell sign of 200. I do think that the Cubs do find it a little bit more, but I think the Pirates get to Wicks here. I like the over. I saw my tell at 8.4, and for the Pirates, want to lay up to a minus 138 on that money line. 953 and 954 on the card. It is the Reds. Yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They're going to be on the road facing off against the New York Mets. Now, we do know that it is going to be Mr. Chase Burns going for the Reds. It is currently listed as to be determined for the New York Mets. This is a game that is presently off the board. Last time in the rotation for them, they threw Zach Thornton in his first career start. If it is Zach Thornton, I'd be setting the Reds at a minus 126, so I'd be willing to lay up to a minus 125 there. Plus 127 or better would be looking at the Metropolitans, and set a total to where an 8 or less, I'd be in on the over an 8.5 or higher to the under. This could be a David Peterson spot, and if it's David Peterson, maybe he piggybacks with Zach Thornton, something like that. I'd probably be setting my lines somewhere similarly, as David Peterson is actually doing for a lot of regression if you do get him, but man, it's been a over 5.50 ERA out of him. He's been able to do a good job in terms of keeping the ball in the yard, but he's been giving up a lot of just general like doubles and things like that. He doesn't necessarily give up the homers, but he does give up some clean contact. Meanwhile, for Chase Burns, I do think that he's doing for a little bit of regression, but the problem is this has been a New York Mets lineup that has been in the bottom 7 all season long in terms of run creation. Other than A.J. Ewan along with Juan Soto, you pretty much don't have anyone that consistently sees at bats that is hitting above a 250. With Burns 183 ERA, 337 fielding dependent with 1.1 home runs, 2.7 walks per 9 innings, but fully capable of getting a lot of swings and misses. He's up to about 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, and when you've got the likes of Marcus Semien along with Brett Beatty just not living up to their billing, that's not necessarily a place where you want to be. You're not getting much power out of these guys. Mark Vientos is up to 6 home runs, but Bo Bichette has been absolutely terrible, 266 on base. MJ Melendez is able to give you about a 337 on base, but again, not a lot of power, not a lot of average. The entire catcher spot is awful. I actually like what I've seen out of the Mets bullpen. It's been a top 10 team in terms of opening areas, so whether you get Thornton or David Peterson along with the poo-poo platter of pitchers, the poo-poo platter of pitchers has actually been been quite good. Luke Weaver back down below a 3.25 ERA. You've had the likes of Austin Warren, Oscar Brisbane, Brooks Raley. These are guys giving you a sub-2 ERA. Tobias Myers could factor in here, about a 3.55 ERA. Fully anticipating sort of a all-hands-on-deck sort of situation with the New York Mets. They may or may not send Thornton back down to the minor league level, and this could be Jonah Tong as well. So there's a lot of things that are sort of factoring in here. Like, I could see Tong and Peterson piggybacking off of one another, so that's sort of the way that I'm playing this. So we're probably not going to see a lot of adjustment based on that starter, but that said, with the Cincinnati Reds, this has been a lineup that has been a little bit up and down this year because they've relied upon two main guys. You've had Cousin Sal Stewart along with Ellie De La Cruz. Both of these guys, 11 plus home runs as far as this season, both hovering right around about a 350 on base. De La Cruz, obviously a really good base stealer, but now they're getting help. JJ Bleday at 375 on base with functional power. Blake Dunn is bailing above a 300. Nathaniel Lowe's giving you about a 345 on base. And Eugenio Suarez is coming off the injury list because, I mean, right now you've got the likes of Brian Hayes, Tyler Stevenson, really the entirety of the catcher spot. Matt McClain at the bottom lineup doing nothing. Suarez coming back is going to be able to help out quite a bit. And this has been a Reds bullpen that has been absolutely awful. They're now in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Tony Santillan north of a 5 ERA. Pierce Johnson, Brock and Rolberg. These guys have been a bit shaky recently, but still they're giving you a sub 375 ERA. But Graham Ashcraft has really hit the toilet bowl. I typically like what you're able to get out of TJ Antone. He's supplied a 6 ERA, so 8 or less like the over, 8.5 or the under. With Burns willing to lay up to minus 125 there, whether it's like Peterson, Tong, Thornton, what have you, need at least a plus 127 to take a shot on the Metropolitans. 955, 956 on the card. It's the Brewers. They're going to be playing us to the St. Louis Cardinals. Michael McGreevy goes for the Cards. Kyle Harrison is on the bump for the Brewers. The Brewers are a good size favorite. Minus 160 to minus 174, plus 135 to plus 146 is that number on St. Louis, with a total between 7.5 to 8 on the 7.5. Overs minus 120 and the unders even on the 8. The unders minus 115 and the overs minus 105. And if you're looking to lay around half with the Brewers, you're getting that as good as a plus 135, as bad as a plus 125. I'm going to be willing to take that plus money run line. I set mine at a plus 112 with Kyle Harrison. I mean, he gets lost in the shuffle of what Jacob Mizorowski has been able to do thus far this season because he has been flat out tremendous for this Brewers team. A 177 ERA. He's getting about 11.6 strikeouts per 9 innings, keeping the ball in the yard, 0.6 home runs per 9 innings. Doesn't quite throw as many 100 plus mile per hour pitches, but he has been great. And for Michael McGreevy, he's pretty much the opposite of Jacob Mizorowski and Kyle Harrison. He is very much pitching to contact, but he's been effective this year. 240 ERA, the 402 fielding, depending with 5.9 strikeouts per 9 innings is a little bit concerning, though. And for the Brewers, this is not really a team that's going to crank out the deep ball or anything like that. They've been a bottom 4 team in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, but I do think that is going to be going a little bit northward. Christian Yelich up to 4 home runs, even in its small sample size. He, along with Jackson Chourio, throw in there as well. Andrew Vaughn, since coming off the injury list, all hitting at least a 260 for the team. Vaughn above a 300. William Contreras-Catiz at a 300. Bryce Terang is giving you a 4 on base with a bunch of stolen bases. Garrett Mitchell at 350 on base. Now, you could use a little bit more of the likes of Joey Ortiz, Luis Renifo in the infield, but all in all, it's a Brewers team that is in the top 6 in big leagues in terms of run creation. Their move line, the Cardinals, they've been averaging over 5 runs per game away from home. They're a top 7 team in the big leagues in terms of run creation away from home, and they just have a lot of guys, again, that move the line, get on base. Von Rare is about a 385 on base. Jordan Walker is your main man. He's been able to give you a 12 plus home runs. He's hitting darn near 300, but JJ Weatherholt, about a 360 on base. You've had Torres, a young outfielder, hit for about a 385 on base. Now, could use a little bit more of the likes of Victor Scott, Pedro Paz at the bottom lineup, but all in all, that's been solid. What has not been solid has been this Cardinals bullpen. Currently in the bottom 8 in terms of ERA. They sent Matt Savanson down to the minor league level, rightfully so. Ryan Stanek over a 5 ERA, but Jojo Romero, Riley O'Brien, they've been able to give you sub 350 ERA. Gordon Gaseffo has been a nice surprise for this team. He's been able to give you about a $1.65 ERA. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, you did have a pair of guys act up towards the beginning part of the season at Abner Uribe along Trevor McGill. They're both supplying over a 4 ERA, but should be able to round into form sooner rather than later. So have Grant Anderson, DL Turn It Up Hall, Aaron Ashby. These have been guys that will be able to give you a sub 335 ERA. Chad Patrick should be able to help out the bullpen as well, and I do think that the Brewers get to big gravy here. Do like the over, sub my total at 8.1, and with the Brewers, I'm willing to take plus 130 or better on that run line. 957, 958 on the card. It's the Phillies. They're going to be on the road against the Slam Diego Padres, as you have Mr. Randy Vasquez on the bump for the Pirates, and Aaron Nola hopes to be super for the Phillies. Phillies who find themselves as a underdog between even money to plus -105, -118 to -122. Then around the pods, 7.5 to 8 is the total. On the 7.5 over is -120, and the unders even. On the 8 over is -105 to a -110 to a -110 to a -115 on that under. Set the Padres at a -146. I'm going to be one to back them on the money line. Aaron Nola is just not good. Last year he had a 6.01 ERA with 1.7 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Eerily similar numbers this year. 6.04 ERA, 1.6 home runs per 9 innings, with his walks being up to 3.3 walks per 9 innings. He's still getting a respectable 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. But man, this is a second straight year of this garbage from him. He just was never an ace to start with, and now he's not a good pitcher at all. And for Randy Vasquez, he's been one of the most improved pitchers in all baseball this year. 2.96 ERA. Not sure why they pushed him back a day and moved up Griffin Canning, but they did. But that's at 367 fielding dependent. Not going to give you a lot of swinging minutes. Only about 7.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 0.8 home runs, 2.6 walks per 9 innings. I really liked what I've seen out of him, and he does go up against a Phillies lineup that entered into yesterday in the bottom 7 in the big leagues in terms of run creation away from home. Kyle Schwarber's magnificent. 21 home runs this far this season. He doesn't hit for a lot of average, but when he hits it, it goes far. 350 on base. Bryce Harper, 12 home runs. He's giving you a 360 on base. What are you going to be able to get out of the infield, though? The entirety of the catcher spot, Trey Turner, along with Alec Boehm, all these guys hitting at 225 or lower. Bryson Stott has helped out a little bit, hitting at 238, but no power and a 284 on base. Brandon Marsh has been solid. He's been about a 320, but all in all, have to have a lot of question marks there. Meanwhile, for the Padres, still waiting on Fernando Tatis Jr. to give you a home run. He's been getting on base the last few games, so that's been good, but still 0 home runs. Miguel Andor has been your best player in terms of moving the line alongside France. Both of these guys hitting in the neighborhood about a 285. Xander Bogaerts has been a little bit colder recently, but at the very least, he's giving you something, unlike last year. 7 home runs, about a 250 average, but then you've got Manny Machado, Nick Castellanos, Jackson Merrill, Ramon Laureano, the entirety of the catcher spot, all hitting at 215 or lower. The saving grace for the Padres is that this is a top 7 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Mason Miller, along with Jason Adam, both give you a sub 2 ERA after a rough start to the season. Jeremiah Estrada, sub 350 ERA. Wandy Peralta has been solid. Adrian Morejon, after a rough start to the season, he seems to be rounding in a form. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, so have to have a lot of question marks with this bullpen. Yoran Duran, he did blow a game last week, but overall, he's been amazing for this team. And I like Ryan Kerkering as well. He's been able to give you sub 3 ERA, but Jose Alvarado over a 5 ERA, Tanner Banks, Jonathan Bolin, these have been guys that have been awful in this bullpen as well. And for the Phillies, just a little bit of a top-heavy team that I think they're going to get to Randy Vasquez a little bit, but I think that the Padres get to Nola to be able to get you this over, so I might tell it at 8.1. So do like the over and the Padres on the money line up to a -145, 959, 960 on the card. It's the Giants that are going to be playing us to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Eduardo Rodriguez goes for the Saints, and Tyler Mully goes for San Francisco. San Francisco, it's in a pick'em game there, anywhere between -106 to a -115, -105 to a -115 is that number on Arizona. Totals between 7.5 to 8. On the 7.5, over is -120, the unders even. On the 8, under is -115, and the over is -105. Set a total here of a 7.8. Personally, I would rather have a 7.5 over rather than an 8 under. Eduardo Rodriguez just appears overdue for regression. I know I've been saying this for a little bit now, but you just take a look at the numbers themselves, and it's going to hit at some point. 2.24 ERA compared to a 3.66 fielding dependent. Pitched into a whole bunch of contact. 6.4 strikeouts, 3.4 walks per 9 innings. So he doesn't get to go up against the Giants team that entered in the series dead sinking last in terms of run creation. Recognize William Adames and Rafael Devers have been a little bit better over the last 10 days, but you got a pair of guys that are giving you less than a 290 on base, 7 home runs or fewer out of both of them. Matt Chapman, 1 home run with about a 240 average. Casey Schmidt's been great, double-figure amount of homers. He's sitting darn near 300. There, you've got guys moving the line. Dusan Susic at the catcher spot is sitting above a 300. Luis Ariz is sitting above a 300. Now, Jungle Lee and many of the other outfielders being out the full, that really does hurt the team, as Drew Gilbert is not giving you too much. Harrison Bader has been awful as well, but there are guys that are able to get on base, and for the Diamondbacks, they've been about a league average offense this year, but last year they were top 6 team with regards to run creation. They dealt with a lot of injuries with Lourdes Gurriel being out to begin the season. Ketel Marte was on himself to begin the season. He's now hitting at 275 at multiple homers last week. Nolan Arenado's turning back time. He's hitting at 270. He's been able to give you some bombs. You need Geraldo Perdomo along with Gabriel Moreno, who've been a little bit banged up to find it, but I do think that they will be able to do so. And for Corbin Carroll, hasn't necessarily given you a ton of power, but darn near 400 on base. And then for the Diamondbacks, they become more of a league average bullpen in terms of ERA. Likes of Juan Barrio, Jonathan Loaiza is right now dealing with a little bit of injury. Ryan Thompson, give you a sub 350 ERA is solid. Now Paul Sewald, I do not trust him at the closer spot, and likes of Brandon Pfaadt, and his long guys have not been great, and it's a Giants team that continues to be a top 10 team in terms of bullpen area. I like what I've seen out of the likes of Yo Piguero, Caleb Killian, Keaton Wynn, even throwing their Sam Hentages, give you a sub-350 ERA. Matt Gage has been solid as well. Eric Miller has been a little bit shaky and banged up along with JT Brubaker, but for Tyler Mahle, you do have to have some question marks with them, because with Mr. Mahle, he was really good for the Texas Rangers last year. I feel like he was just a beneficiary of Arlington being one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks in all of baseball, though he is right now rocking a nice hearty 6.10 ERA. 1.7 home runs, 3.7 walks per 9 innings allowed. Now he's been a little bit better than this ERA with a 4.73 fielding dependent, but really hard to trust in him. So I did set the Arizona Diamondbacks here at minus 109. Willing to go up to minus 108 on that D-backs money line, and I do like the 7.5 to the over. So my total at a 7.8. 961, 962 on the card. It's Colorado. The Rockies are on the road against the Dodgers as Eric Lauer goes for the Dodgers. Kyle Freeland is on the bump for the Colorado Rockies. The total is between 8.5 to 9 on the 9. Under is minus 115. The over is minus 105. On the 8.5, over is minus 120 to minus 125. Under is between even and plus 105, and I do like that over. I set my total at a 9.3. It's just really hard to trust in Kyle Freeland right now, as he's right now been posting up about a 7.05 ERA. Swing and miss stuff has actually been up to about 8.4 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's pretty solid for him, but still, he's given up 2.1 home runs, 3.3 walks per 9 innings. Fully recognize that it's a Dodgers team averaging more than 1.6 runs per game fewer at home rather than away from home, but I do think that they're going to find it at home. I don't know if we ever see Mookie Betts get back to where he was. He's just been dealing with a lot of injuries, but pretty much everyone else in the starting lineup other than Kike Hernandez, who made a season debut yesterday, hitting at 247 or better. These are guys that all give you functional power. Shohei Ohtani at 8 home runs. You expect a little bit more out of him, and I think that you're going to get more moving forward. Freddie Freeman entered into yesterday with 6 home runs. It's going to come around for Kyle Tucker. It's been a little bit of a disappointment. I just have faith that this is going to be a lineup that is just absolutely raking as the season goes along. And for the Colorado Rockies, they've been better with their run creation away from home this season. They are dealing right now with a bit of an injury to Mickey Moniak. He's been out of the lineup for the last few days, but Hunter Goodman, he's been able to give you 11 home runs, hitting about at 250. You've had TJ Brownfield, Jake McCarthy, Move Lyon, hitting at 275. Now, likes of Brenton Doyle, Ezekiel Tovar, Kyle Karros, hitting at 220 or lower. Sterling Thompson, who they just called up, has not been great, to say the least. You're going to need to get a little bit more there. And for Rockies bullpen, that was actually quite solid to begin the season. Victor Vodnik and Jimmy Harrigan going on the injury list is rough. Now, you do have likes of Jaden Hill, Juan Mejia, along with Brandon Bernardino, give you a sub 4.25 ERA. Seth Halverson, you're able to throw him in there as well. And Antonio Sensatella has actually been great in the bullpen, but they've used him up quite a bit over the last few days, so do have to have a little bit of question mark there. And for Eric Lauer, man, things did not go well for him out there in Toronto, and he had a good year last year. Lauer was posting up last year about 8.8 strikeouts, 2.2 walks per 9 innings, a sub 350 ERA. And this year, 6.69 ERA, 6.91 fielding dependent, 2.7 home runs, 4 walks per 9 innings. I do think that the change of scenery helps. I still think that he gives up some runs, so I like the over, so my total 9.3, but I really do think that the Dodgers get to Kyle Freeland. I was willing to go up to a minus 128 on that run line. Right now, seeing that at a minus 105, like the Dodgers run line and that total to the over, 963, 964 on the card. The Orioles playoffs to the Tampa Bay Rays. Griffin Jax hopes to get Jack's help for the Rays, and the Wizard of Oz, Shane Baz, goes for Baltimore. This is a pick'em game. Both teams are anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115. Totals between 8.5 to 9. On the 8.5, over is minus 120 and the under is even. On the 9, the under is minus 120 and the over is even money. And I do like the over here. I set my total at a 9.3. I actually nudged up my total just a little bit due to the fact that you had so many guys that came out of the bullpen yesterday that it wasn't even funny. And I'm willing to trust in the Rays up to a minus 106. I set them at a minus 107 for Griffin Jax. He's been able to come along for the ride this far this season. As he began the season in the bullpen, he was a starter by trade when he began his career for the Minnesota Twins. He was never really even great in that Minnesota Twins bullpen, and I think that the Rays realize, hey, this guy is actually a starter. 3.54 ERA, 43 fielding depends, so that's been a little bit concerning. Needs to work on giving up 4.8 walks per 9 innings, but he has started in his last 5 appearances, and he's allowed 3 earned runs in these appearances. Now, 2 of those starts were a combined 5 innings. He went 2 1/3 and then 2 2/3, but ever since then, 4+ innings in every one of them. He's going to need to lend a little bit of length here because, when you go 13 innings like the Tampa Bay Rays and the Orioles did yesterday, that's not necessarily great to say the least. And they are dealing with Cole Souls being on the injury list, but Brian Baker's been able to give you sub 350 ERA. Your Clevenger has looked like himself since coming out the injury list. Probably burnt up Ian Seymour for this game, though. Jesse Schulten's a little bit of a long guy. Had to come in yesterday. And for the Orioles, they have been a bottom 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA as well. Yunier Cano, along with Uncle Rico Garcia have been your main guys. They've been able to give you a sub-3 ERA, but then you've got Anthony Nunez playing a 5 ERA. Dietrich Enns has been going down the toilet bowl a little bit as well, so you've got a lot of question mark there. And for Shane Baz, he just hasn't been great this year. 3+ runs allowed in 3 out of his last 4 starts. 4.87 ERA, 441 fielding dependent. He's only giving up 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, but 3.9 walks, 7.5 strikeouts per 9, facing off against a Tampa Bay Rays team that has been a top 8 team in terms of run creation away from home. Junior Caminero is right now on pace for 30+ home runs. He's been able to give you an on-base percentage that hovers in the neighborhood about a 350. Yandy Diaz, Jonathan Aranda, both of these guys give you over a 368 on base. Chandler Simpson, one of the best base stealers in all baseball, hits about a 290. And then likes of a Richie Palacios, Nick Fortes, Hunter Viducia. I mean, these are all guys hitting at least a 255 for the bunch. And for the Orioles, they are averaging darn near 5 runs per game at home this far this season. They've been much better at home rather than away from home. Pete Alonso's starting to get on base a little bit more. He and Adley Rutschman between about a 315 to a 325 on base. Samuel Basayo also about a 325 on base. Jeremiah Jackson just doesn't draw walks, but he's able to give you a little bit of pop. They're getting back Jackson all day. He's been shaky since coming off the injury list, but Taylor Ward, even though he's way down with his power, he lands here at 30+ home runs with the LA Angels. He is at a nice hearty 2 thus far this season. He's giving you 4 on base, and Gunnar Anderson is the opposite. 11 home runs, but just a 275 on base. Interesting circumstance here. Like the over, semi-total 9.3 for the Rays, more to lay up to a -106 on the money line. 965, 966 on the card. The Angels are on the road against the Tigers. Kadir Montero is on the bump for the Tigres, and Jack Kachanowicz goes for the Angels. Angels are an underdog between +110 to a +120, meanwhile -135 to a -140. That's your number on the Detroit Tigers. 8.5 is the total. Over and under both at -110. Do like the under. I set my total at 8.2. Now for the Angels, they've been actually much better with their offense away from home rather than at home. 3.4 runs per game at home. 4.7 runs per game away from home. Meanwhile, the Detroit Tigers have been hitting okay at home. I'm not going to say that it's been great, but 3.9 runs per game at home, closer to about 3.75 runs per game away from home. They've been a bottom 4 team with regards to hitting, but I do think that they're going to be able to get to a guy in Jack Kachanowicz, who I feel like has been lucky to be able to keep the ball in the yard as much as he has. 6.4 strikeouts, 4.6 walks per 9 innings with only 0.8 home runs per 9 innings, 4.55 ERA. Meanwhile, for Kadir Montero, he's been much better this year than he has been in the past. For Montero, he was very shaky in his first few years at the big league level. 3.83 ERA, 4.22 fielding dependent this year with 1.1 home runs, 2.6 walks per 9 innings, and he is backed up by a bullpen of the Tigers. And again, they're not amazing, but they're not bad. They're about 15th in terms of bullpen ERA. I just still do not trust him. Kenley Jansen, we saw him blow game 1 of that doubleheader a few days ago, but you got something like a Brant Herter who's able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Wolves was shaky to begin the season, but coming off the injury list, I think he's going to be a little bit better. Tyler Holton is starting to see some positivity with his ERA. Now, they did put Birch Smith on the injury list. Herter might be heading there as well, so they're probably going to be needing a few of these guys like a Brendan Hennessy, who's been a mix-and-match guy, to be able to step up. And when it comes to the lineup itself of the Tigers, they do have guys that get on base. Riley Green, Kevin McGonigal, both over a 385 on base. Now, they are dealing with the injuries to Gleyber Torres, Javi Baez, and that's been a big reason why we have seen this team toilet bowl. The likes of Heyu Lee, Jamal Jones, Jake Rogers, Wencio Perez, Matt Vierling, all these guys hitting at 220 or lower. I don't think any of these guys provide power whatsoever. Dylan Dingler has been your main matcher. 10 home runs this far this season, hitting at 230. Spencer Torkelson just hasn't been good either. 7 home runs at a 202 average. You just need more out of him. Cole Keith hits for about a 280, so that's been relatively acceptable. On the other end, you've got a bunch in the LA Angels that, I mean, it's just been all sorts of bad for this team. They are a bottom 3 team in terms of bullpen ERA. They really haven't been able to get a lot of good starting pitching. We have seen the offense really go down the tube. Zach Netto's giving you 10 home runs, but again, they're an all-or-nothing team. He hits about a 225. Jorge Soler, after his nice start to the season, he has toilet bowled. 300 on base, 214 average. Mike Trout, 13 home runs, about a 4 on base. You know what you're going to get out of him. Nolan Schunold, Joe Adell, both of these guys hitting between a 245 to a 260, and Adell has been able to give you 7 home runs, so he's been fine. But then, like of Yohan Makado's now hurt, Logan O'Hoppe, Josh Lowe, veterans sitting below the Bedell 200, Von Grisham giving you nothing, Bryce Tisduso has been giving you nothing. That's an issue, and I mean, really, other than Chase Silseth, who's been able to give you a sub-3 year, and Sam Bachman, I'll give Sam Bachman some credit. He's been okay in this bullpen as well. Really hard to trust in any of these guys. Drew Pomeranz was rocking a 70 ERA. They've had to put him on the injury list. Brent Suter's up to about 4.67 ERA. I mean, Nick Sandlin is posting up an ERA of an 11. Ryan Johnson is posting up an ERA that I think is closer to about a 15. They kick the tires on Jordan Romano along with Alec Manoah in that bullpen. Kirby Yates has not been great since coming off the injury list, so do you think that the Tigers find a way to get the job done? Do you think that the Tigers still have some issues on offense? So, like the under, I told them at 8.2, one to lay up to minus 153 on the Tigers money line. 967, 968 on the card. The New York Yankees are on the road. They're facing off against the Kansas City Royals as Bailey Falter hopes to not live up to his name for the Royals, and Cam Schlittler is on the bump for the Yankees, and the Yankees very demonstrative favorites here. Right now between minus 195 and minus 205, plus 165 to plus 175. Then around Kansas City, if you're looking to lay a run half with the Yankees, that is minus 120, and total is 9. The under is minus 120, and the over is even. I set the Yankees at a minus 196 on the money line. I was willing to go up to a minus 125 on that run line, so seeing the minus 120, I'm going to be willing to dive in there. For Cam Schlittler, this guy has been just absolutely superb this far this season, and that is a big reason why I'm going to be in on this total under as well. For Cam Schlittler, he's giving you a sub-2 ERA. He's giving you a sub-2 fielding independent. This guy has done everything that you could possibly want out of a pitcher. Really nice swing and miss stuff, 10.2 strikeouts and 1.8 walks per 9 innings. He's given up 2 home runs in 66 innings across his 11 starts thus far this season. That is amazing. And then for Bailey Falter, well, it has been a case where he has faltered throughout his entire career. Very small sample size thus far this season. He's only won a combined 7 1/3 innings, but he's allowed 8 runs in those innings, so he's got a nice hearty 9.82 ERA. And you just look at the career numbers for him. 6.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, a lifetime 4.66 ERA with a 4.68 fielding independent. There's no reason to think that you're going to get a lot of positivity with him, and when it comes to this bullpen, it has been one that has not been very great for the Kansas City Royals. Lucas Ursedge has been able to find it a little bit more, and then you've had Matt Strahm be able to give you a sub-350 ERA, but Matt Strahm now hits the injured list for this team, so that means that Steven Cruz, who's been unreliable, needs to see more innings. Sean Schreiber has been okay for the team, but all in all, it's a team that is 24th in the league in terms of opening ERA for the Yankees. They've been an okay bullpen, 11th in terms of ERA to 350. Camilo Udval and David Bennar have not been great, but you've had the likes of Brent Hendrick, Tim Hill, Fernando Cruz, who have been able to give you a sub-350 ERA. Even these long guys like Paul Blackburn has been reliable. Ryan Yarbrough, a little bit hit or miss, but not bad for a long guy, and you're probably not going to need him here, as they do face off against the Royals team that's been much better at home with their offense rather than away from home. Away from home, 3.04 runs per game for the Royals. That is said last in all baseball. Closer to 4.5, 4.6 runs per game at home, but you still have Vinny Pasquantino, Salvador Perez, a pair of guys that have given you between 7 and 9 home runs apiece. Both are giving you a 289 on base or less. Bobby Witt Jr., you expect a little bit more than 7 home runs, but he's been able to give you about a 360 on base. That's been fine. And then you do have guys that are able to move the line. Kyle Isabel, Miguel Garcia hitting between about a 255 to 265. Isaac Collins not a lot of average, but 335 on base. They should be giving Starling Marte more at bats. He's been able to about a 290. And for the Yankees, this is a bunch that's averaging just a hair above 4 runs per game away from home. You've got Ben Rice and Aaron Judge carrying the mail, 15 plus home runs. Both give you between a 369 to a 379 on base, but Judge, other than that home run on Sunday, has been a little bit shaky over the last week. Paul Goldschmidt is starting to find it a little bit more, and same with Jazz Chisholm. Both of these guys give you about a 250 or so average, and Goldschmidt's been able to give you a bit of power. And Cody Bellinger, 380 on base, 7 home runs this far this season, but the entirety of the catcher spot, Anthony Volpe, Ryan McMahon, these are guys hitting at 231 or less, so that's an issue, and Trent Grisham has been awful out there in the outfield, but I think that Schlittler just goes out there, dominates this one, so my total is 7.8 as a result. I like the under and the Yankees on the run line, 969, 970 on the card. It's the Twins. They are going to be on the road against the White Sox as Sean Burke goes for the Southsiders and Joe Ryan is on the bump for the Twins, and the Twins are a favorite here between a minus 115 to minus 120, even money to plus 105. That's your number on the White Sox. 7.5 is the total. Over is minus 115 to minus 120. The under is between even a minus 105. I'm going to be willing to take a shot here on the White Sox. I set them at a minus 113. As for this White Sox team, it has been one that has been able to do a really great job with the deep ball. Now, they are a bottom 8 team in terms of just being able to hit for average, so that's been a little bit of an issue. Montaka Murakami has been your main guy. He's been able to give you 17 home runs as far this season, and he's up above a 360 on base, but he's hitting less than a 245, and then you got Colson Montgomery with about a 315 on base. He's up to 11 plus home runs. You've gotten the same out of Miguel Vargas, so Miguel Vargas hitting for a little bit more average than Colson Montgomery. You are starting to get a few more guys to be able to find a way to be able to get on base, which turns these home runs into more like 2-run shots, 3-run shots. Same Antonasi, give you about a 375 on base. Chase Meadroth has been able to give you about a 340 on base, so that's been big. But Luan Acuna, the catcher spot, you've had a few dead bats in this lineup, and both of these bullpens are just absolutely terrible. You've got a pair of teams there in the bottom 6 in terms of bullpen ERA. Jordan Hicks is currently on the injury list, not necessarily a bad thing for the White Sox, and I will say Sean Newcomb has been actually pretty good in terms of his bullpen. He's been able to give you about a 3 ERA. Brian Hudson, Tyler Davis, Grant Taylor. These guys, a sub-3 ERA as well, but these mix and match guys like Lucas Sims, Brandon Iser, Jordan Leisure, like they have been absolutely awful in this bullpen. And for the Minnesota Twins, other than Cody Funderburk, I really don't know who's been good in this bullpen. Like, my goodness, you've got so many guys like Justin Topo, I believe is on the injury list again. Not necessarily the world's worst thing for this team. They've trotted out their Zach Kent a little bit. They've been looking to likes of Taylor Rogers and company. I think other than Rogers, all these guys have north of a 4 ERA. Eric Orze is rounding into a little bit of better form, 3.38 ERA, but Anthony Banda, north of a 5 ERA. Andrew Morris, about a 4.50, so that's not amazing. And for the Twins, they've been able to give you some nice power. Byron Buxton has been amazing, 16 home runs, but he's been dealing with a little bit of injury recently. Lucas Shaw, he's giving you like a 2.33 average with 1 home run. You need a little bit more there. Josh Bell down to a 2.88 on base with 5 home runs, but Ryan Jeffers, 4 on base. He's been able to supply now 7 home runs. Trevor Lawrence who's going to give you a 3.90 on base. You've had some of these guys step up. Even Cody Clemens, at the very least, he's now giving you a 3.15 on base. So it's an interesting circumstance because for Joe Ryan, he has been quite solid this far this season. About a 3.02 ERA, closer to 2.52 fielding dependent. He's getting about 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, half a home run per 9 innings. But you look at the career numbers for Joe Ryan, and he has given up over 1.5 home runs per 9 innings away from him. It's not necessarily the world's worst road ERA. You take a look at his entire career numbers. This is more than just one specific year. 3.54 ERA at home, 3.93 ERA away from him, but he really does give up the deep ball. So this is a circumstance where I semi-total at an 8.2. I like the over because Sean Burke, he's been an ordinary pitcher this far this season. He's getting only about 7.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. Last year, he was giving up over 4 walks per 9 innings. He's toned that down to about 2.4 walks per 9 innings, 4.08 ERA, 3.65 fielding dependent. Do think you get enough for the over, and I do think that the White Sox get the job done. Want to lay up to a minus 113 on the money line. 971, 972 on the card. The Astros are going to be on the road against the Walker Texas Rangers. Jack Leiter is on the bump for the Rangers and Jason Alexander. No relation, Seinfeld is on the bump for the Astros. Astros are an underdog here of between plus 114 to plus 120. Meanwhile, minus 134 to minus 143. That's your number on Texas with a total of 8. The over is minus 120 and the under is even. Nothing funny about Jason Alexander's numbers. I'm going to be willing to take the Rangers on the money line for Jason Alexander, a 7.30 ERA. This far this season, he's giving up over 4 walks per 9 innings, 1.5 home runs per 9. He's just not a trustworthy guy. He had one nice start about a week and a half ago, but other than that, he has not really shown any flashes of brilliance as far this season. Meanwhile, for Jack Leiter, he's had his own struggles. 4.61 ERA, 1.3 home runs, 3.8 walks per 9 innings, but the bullpen disparity is big. The Astros are dead last in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA at a 5.60. Meanwhile, the Rangers, they've got the number 1 bullpen in terms of ERA in the American League. It is sub 3. As for the Rangers, you've had the Jacobs, Jacob Junis, Jacob Latz, both be able to give you a sub 3.6 ERA. They did have to put Cole Winn on the injury list, but he had been underachieving thus far this season. You've had Jalen Beeks as a long guy be able to give you a 3 ERA. Cal Quantrill as a long guy has actually been solid as well. He's been able to give you a sub 3 ERA. You're getting something out of Gavin Collier. Like, all of these options are pretty solid, and for the Houston Astros, they are right now just trying to find guys that are able to give them outs whatsoever, because Josh Hader being on the injury list has really hurt the team, and Stephen Okert, he's been presentable for them. He's giving you about a 4 ERA. You've been able to get a little bit of something out of AJ Bluebell, Aniel De Los Santos. They're both supplying a sub 5 ERA, but the likes of Brian Abreu, Jaden Murray, and they had Alexander coming out of the bullpen, Bennett Sosa. You got a lot of guys that are supplying an ERA that's above a 6. And for the Astros, since the beginning of the month of May, they're averaging fewer than 3.2 runs per game. That's a bottom 3 mark in all of baseball. Yordan Alvarez was supplying 15 home runs, but he's now day-to-day dealing with injury. Christian Walker has been incredible for the team, 14 home runs, about a 340 on base, but now you've got a lot of guys that they're just not finding a way on base. The Zach Cole, Zach DeZenzo, Cam Smith, all in at 215 or lower without necessarily a ton of power. Yanier Diaz at 255 on base with 2 home runs. Carlos Correa being injured, Jose Altuve being injured has really hurt the team, and Isaac Paredes gets on base, 340 on base, but only 5 home runs as far as the season. You expect a little bit more there, and for the Rangers, this is a unit that's only averaging about 3 runs per game at home. Arlington is one of the best ballparks in all of baseball in terms of suppressing offense. Jake Berger is up to 10 home runs, but he only gives you about a 291 on base. You've had Corey Seager be on the injury list. He wasn't necessarily giving the team a lot. Evan Carter has continued his struggles. He's hitting for about a $165, but you do have a few guys to get on base. Josh Young is hitting at 300. Brandon Nimmo about a 350 on base. Jock Peterson is up to a 360 on base. Could use a little bit more power out of him, but hey, you've had Justin Foscue, don't call his name Alejandro Zuna, who have been able to hit about a 300 as well. So it feels like things are starting to turn around for the Rangers, and I think that they get to Alexander in this bad bullpen. Like the over, I did somebody tell it at 8.7. Want to lay the money line with Rangers, set them at a minus 161. 973, 974 on the card. The Athletics play host to the Mariners. Emerson Hancock is on the bump for the M's, and Luis Severino is on the bump for the Athletics. Athletics are between even money to -105, -110 to -120. Then around Seattle, 9.5 is total. Under is -115, over is -105, and I set the A's here at a -104. So I'm going to be looking at them on this even money price on the money line for Luis Severino. I fully recognize that he has not been the same pitcher when he has been at home rather than away from home. If you combine this year and last year, his ERA rises by about 2.5 points at home rather than away from home, and the command has been a little bit of an issue. 4.23 ERA overall this season, fielding dependent right on par with that 4.30. 4.5 walks, 1.2 home runs allowed per 9 innings. He's been better recently, though. 2 walks or fewer now in 4 out of his last 5 starts. That's led to him giving up 2 earned runs or fewer in 4 out of his last 5 starts. And Emerson Hancock has been one of the better stories in all of baseball. Was not very good the last few years for this Mariners team. Now he's playing a 3.07 ERA, 3.58 fielding dependent, and is backed up by a bullpen that has been number 5 in the big leagues in terms of ERA at a 3.16. You've had so many of these guys like Cooper Criswell, Edward Bizardo, Jose Ferrer, Matt Brash be able to step up, give you a sub 3.50 ERA. Andres Munoz has actually been the biggest issue in this bullpen thus far this season. He's rounded back into form after a little bit of a shaky start to the season, but with the Athletics, they've been, in my opinion, the far better offense this season. Now, Sacramento obviously does a great job in terms of elevating offense. Just with the confines, they're averaging about 4.8 runs per game at home. Closer about 4.1 away from home. I actually thought the split was a little bit bigger because the Athletics have found it on the road a little bit more here in the last few games. Do need to get a bit more out of Tyler Soderstrom, Brent Rooker, these guys hitting right around the middle of line 200. Rooker's looked a little bit better since coming off the injury list. Small sample size for Henry Bolte, but he's been able to hit above a 250. You've got Jeff McNeil, who's been able to move the line. Zach Aloff not hitting for a lot of average since coming off the injury list, but 6 home runs. Nick Kurtz continues to give you over a 400 on base. So does Carlos Cortez. Very under the radar guy. And Shea Langoliers, he's been a little bit cold the last few weeks, but 12 home runs hitting above 300. And for the Mariners, you still have Cal Raleigh currently on the injury list. Miles Mastroboni is currently on the injury list, and you just were expecting more. Josh Naylor hitting about a 250 with 5 home runs. Randy Rosarena moves the line. He's give you a 375 on base. Luke Raley, 10 bombs. He's been able to about a 265, but I mean, the catcher spot has been an issue ever since you've had Raleigh go on the injury list. You've got the young guy in Colt Emerson, their own young gun, who's looked okay in his first few games. Want to see a little bit more before making any determinations there. But J.P. Crawford, even though he gives you over a 320 on base, hitting just a 200, you need a bit more there. Julio Rodriguez has been a little bit better, but I do think that you get a lower scoring game. I think that both of these starters give you a good start, and I think that the Athletics, with their offense, finds a way to get the job done. Like the under, semi-total 9.3, and I do like the Athletics up to a -103 on the money line. 975, 976 on the card. The Nationals are on the road against the Guardians as Joey Cantillo is on the bump for the Guardians and Cade Cavalli is on the bump for the Nationals. Nationals do find themselves as underdogs here, anywhere between +115 to +125, -135 to -145. That number on the Cleveland Guardians. 7.5 is the total. Over is -115 to -120. Under is between even a -105, and I do like the over. I did set my total at an 8.1. Nationals continue to be number 1 in the big leagues in terms of run creation. It's a unit that is now giving you about 5.4 runs per game thanks to yesterday, and they were able to get to that Cleveland Guardians bullpen that has been very mundane thus far this season. Entered in the series about 13th in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Now you've been able to have Tim Aaron along with Eric Zabrowski be able to give you a sub 350 ERA, and Logan Allen, they're going to be trotting him out from the bullpen, but they had to use him up yesterday. They're going to be having a little bit of a shortage of arms, and they need Hunter Gaddis, who began the season on the injury list, supplying over a 5 ERA, to be able to find it a little bit more. Nationals have not been great with their bullpen themselves. They're a bottom 7 team in terms of bullpen ERA. That said, when you're able to slug it out the way that they are, that's going to help offset a lot of that. And they've been able to find some nice pieces. Richard Dickey Lovelady has been able to give you a sub 350 ERA. Paxton Schultz has been able to do an okay job for the team, along with Orlando Rebalta. Now, Schultz is seeing his ERA start to balloon back up to 5, so that's been an issue. Rebalta continues to give you a sub 3 ERA, but how about what you've been able to get out of their 2 main guys in CJ Abrams along James Wood? Wood has been able to give you 13 plus home runs and 400 on base. You've got 12 bombs now for Abrams, 380 on base, and Luis Garcia, Dallin Lyle, these guys hitting between about a 262, 270. Lyle's been able to give you some functional power. That's nice. Curtis Mead is now up to 7 home runs and a 350 on base. So the guys around Wood and Abrams are starting to be able to move the line. And for the Guardians, here in the month of May, they've been averaging over 4.7 runs per game. Not really the guys that you'd expect, though. Jose Ramirez is hitting like a 230 with 8 home runs. I mean, you did have Rhys Hoskins go to EP yesterday, but $192 average with 5 home runs. Stephen Kwan is hitting like a 210. On base percentage is a 330, but still, Brian Ryan Rocchio, 370 on base. He's been solid. Jason Lauder has went downward ever since his hot start to the season, but still give you about a 345 on base. Travis Bazzana, the former number 1 overall pick, hasn't supplied a lot of power, but he's been able to give you over a 375 on base. Even Austin Hedges has been hitting a little bit as well. And when it comes to Cade Cavalli, he's got some really good swing and miss stuff in the arsenal. Now for Cavalli, he's going to need to work on the command a little bit more, and that's the same knock that for Joey Cantillo when we get to him. But that's it for Cavalli, 3.86 ERA. The fielding pennant is right around about a 3.16, 10.2 strikeouts, 3.2 walks per 9 innings, only a half home run allowed per 9 innings. And for Mr. Joey Cantillo, he's been supplying about a 3.05 ERA, but doing for regression with a 4.15 fielding dependent, 8.2 strikeouts, 4.3 walks per 9 innings. So I do like the over, so I total at 8.1. And for the Guardians, set them at a minus 124, so plus 125 or better. My buy point on the Nationals money line. 977, 978 on the card. It's the Braves. They're going to be on the road against the Red Sox as Ranger Suarez is on the bump for Boston, and Spencer Strider goes for the Atlanta Braves. The total on this game, it is between 8 to 8.5. On the 8.5, under is minus 120. The over is even. On the 8, over is minus 120. Under is even. With the Braves, they're about minus 110 to minus 115 on the money line. Minus 105 to a minus 112 on Boston, so a relatively pick-em game, and I like the Braves here. I did set them at a minus 130 for Spencer Strider. He's come off the injured list, and he's looked very solid. Had that rocky first start against the Colorado Rockies. When you're going to Coors to make your first start of the season, that's obviously not a place where you want to be, but ever since then, last 3 starts, 17 and 2/3 innings, 21 strikeouts, 4 runs allowed. He's looked like the guy that we saw at peak form a few seasons ago. Meanwhile, for Ranger Suarez, he's done his part. 2.40 ERA, 0.6 home runs, 2.6 walks per 9 innings. Not give you a ton of swing and miss, but I mean, he's been fine. Now he has to go up against the Braves team that's averaging over 6 runs per game away from home. That is number 2 in all baseball, and I know that the Braves offense over the last few days hasn't quite been the same with Drake Baldwin hitting the injured list, but now you get back Ronald Acuna Jr., so that's a good way of being able to just offset that. Additionally, you've been able to get a lot of production out of Matt Olson. He's up to 14 home runs, about a 340 or so on base. Austin Riley has not been himself since he got injured last season, but still, Michael Harris is sitting at 290 with 11 home runs. Dom Smith continues at above a 300 for this team. Even the likes of Ori Mateo, Mauricio Dubon, these ancillary guys have been able to find a way to move line in for the Atlanta Braves. This is a top 8 team in terms of opening. I recognize that Tyler Kinley has went downward a little bit, but you've got a pair of guys in the back end and Robert Suarez along with Racio Iglesias, who have been absolutely magnificent this year. Both of these guys have sub 1 ERA, and then the Dylans, Dylan Lee, Dylan Dodd, both below 1.15 ERA, so they've been tremendous. DDA Fuentes as a long guy has actually been pretty solid for this team as well. And then on the other end, you've got a Boston Red Sox team that is averaging 2.9 runs per game at home. That is dead sinking last in all baseball. They've been dealing with the injuries to Roman Anthony and company. Now, Wilson Contreras is doing his part. 11 home runs, 375 on base. He's not the issue, but you've got a lot of issues out there in the infield. Marcelo Meyer, Caleb Durbin, very obviously, Carlos Cervantes, all these guys hitting at 220 or lower with not a lot of power whatsoever. Trevor Story's on the injured list. He wasn't doing anything for the team. You've had Jaron Duran hitting for a $193. Had a few home runs last week, but still, it's been rough for him. You've got Masataka Yoshida moving the line a little bit, but has not been great there. And the Red Sox, they themselves have been a top 10 team in terms of bullpen area. Aroldis Chapman continues to be amazing. And then you've got some of these just mix and match guys like Giovanni Morin, along with Tyler Semenijo, who have been able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA. It's been up and down for Greg Weiser, but he appears to be rounding into form as well. So I do like this total to the under, so I total 7.5. I'm willing to lay up to a minus 130 on the Braves money line, and then wrap things up with 979, 980 on the card. The Marlins, they're going to be on the road against the Blue Jays. We do know that Sandy Alcantara goes for the Marlins. It's undecided for the Blue Jays, which is why this is off the board. Should be Spencer Miles in a little bit of a bulk roll and sort of a mix and match game for the Blue Jays. Assuming that, I set the Marlins at a minus 104. Willing to lay up to minus 103 there, plus 105 or better. Looking at the Jays and made a total of an 8.6, 8.5 or less, like the over, a 9 or higher to the under end for the Marlins, even though you don't have a team with a lot of boom. They're in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of home runs out of per at-bat bases. Liam Hicks has been absolutely tremendous for the team, about a 340 on base. He's up to 11 home runs this far this season. Around him, you've got 2 guys in Otto Lopez, Xavier Edwards, who have both been able to hit above 300. Edwards is now up to 6 home runs as well, so that's been a nice little find for the team. Now, you need the guys at the bottom line to be able to give you a little bit more. Owen Casey, Asterio Ruiz, Joe Mack, they're all hitting below a 225, and then Jacob Marcy steals a lot of bags, but he's sitting at 200. Kyle Stowers has not been himself since coming off the injury list as well. Good news for the Marlins is that they've got the better bullpen in this game. They're a top 9 team in terms of bullpen ERA, even with Andrew Nardi providing a north of 450 ERA. John King has been able to give you a sub 3 ERA. Michael Peterson, great name. He and Anthony Bender hovering right in that neighborhood, about a 338 to a 368 ERA. You're getting Pete Fairbanks off the injured list as well. And for the Toronto Blue Jays, they're going to need to find a little bit more long relief. They were hoping Uriel Rodriguez would provide that coming off the injured list. He's been a little bit rough. Jeff Hoffman, Mason Flaherty are providing over a 4 ERA, but Tyler Rogers, Braden Fisher, Louis Varland, all at sub 3.25 ERA. And for the Blue Jays, they're number one in terms of fewest strikeouts on a per at-bat basis. But outside of Kazuma Okamoto, 10 home runs, and he's only hitting at 214 right now. Nobody else on the roster with over 5 home runs going into yesterday. As you've had AC Sanchez, Andres Gimenez, Dalton Varsho, all give you at least 5 home runs. And in the case of Varsho, Alon Sanchez, both earning above a 265. Flagler Jr. continues to give you a 380 plus on base, but 3 home runs. You expect more there. Ernie Clement is hitting at 295, so they move the line. Miles Straw has been okay in terms of getting on base as well, but they're just really not providing a lot of power. And then for Sandy Alcantara, it has been a case where he got off to a really nice start to the season, but he needs to try to crank up the swing and miss stuff a little bit more. You can tell that he's trying to go deep into games and try to protect that bullpen, but he needs to be a little bit more selfish with the strikeout stuff. 4 ERA, 373 fielding independent, 0.8 home runs, 2.6 walks per 9 innings, but 6.2 strikeouts per 9 innings. Meanwhile, for Spencer Miles, he's probably going to be going, I would think, like 4 or so innings, give or take, in his last appearance. 4 1/3 innings prior to that, 3 2/3, so they're trying to stretch him out. 217 ERA, 281 fielding dependent, 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. And in the bulk appearances, he's given up 0 runs in each out of his last 3. So give him a little bit of credit there. Do think that might be doing for a little bit of regression, and don't necessarily trust in that Jays bullpen. Minus 103 or better. Looking at the Marlins, plus 105 or better. The Blue Jays, 8.5 or less, like the over 9 or higher, the under. And that'll wrap things up for the Tuesday edition of the Baseball Betting Show. Now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter /X timeline at Jude_81. Keep in mind, letters the name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated, and then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, and I am with you guys every single day on this podcast. Big thanks once again to our guy Jon Jansen over at Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler, and I will catch you guys once again tomorrow as I'm giving you guys picks and analysis on every game, every day. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back with you once again tomorrow.